Hi,
Hi.
my name is Laura.
Hi, Adam. Nice
I'm
to
going
meet
to
you.
be interviewing you for our position today for a substance abuse counselor.
I brought a copy of my resume if you.
Thank you. So we'll get started.
Okay.
I guess my first question to you is what attracted you to this position?
Okay, in this position, I've always been interested in the mental health field. It started in high school and continued on. That's what I got my undergraduate degree in psychology, and my master's degree is also in psychology.
Okay.
But what really firmed my interest in substance abuse is an internship I had in my undergrad. I worked at an IOP out of Bridgeport Hospital.
Oh,
It was a program called REACH, and essentially one of the main groups I focused on was the substance abuse group. And working with my mentor and the groups themselves really drew me in to the love of the substance abuse field. There's a real interest in helping that community evolve and better themselves and learn.
right, so you've dealt with a lot of group counseling and that as well, so that's good. In this field, you'll be in possession of a lot of important and sensitive information. You probably know that. What are some steps that can be taken to ensure that patient-client confidentiality?
There are a couple of different things I've done throughout my life. One thing that we've always had are locked filing cabinets. So we always lock filing cabinets of any paper copies that we might have on clients, any sensitive information, any notes we might take. But a more recent thing I've done inside my most recent job as a behavior therapist is we had flash drives that were coded and locked, so only certain people who knew those codes could only access that sensitive information. So even if these thumb drives got misplaced, no one would be able to access them.
Okay.
So
And occasionally, you briefly talked about a group session, and occasionally while leading a group session, there may be a person who can dominate the group. Can you describe how you would address this issue of group dynamics?
I think group equality is extremely important. Keeping the dynamics and the flow is extremely important. So one of the things I usually address with someone who's overpowering the group is I never want them to make them feel like what their input isn't important. So I always say, I'd love to hear what you want to hear or what you have to say, but in the interest of the whole group, I want to hear what everyone has to say. But once we go through everyone, if there's enough time left over, then you could finish all your thoughts.
That'd be still addressing whatever you needed to say. That's great. Often you will also find yourself engaging with many other professionals. Can you describe a situation where you found yourself in a difficult situation with another coworker and how that issue was resolved?
That's a good question. There was one time where I was an assistant director of a camp, and we were actually unit directors. My unit was the older unit, so 4th grade and up, and she was in charge of the younger unit, kindergarten to 3rd grade. And oftentimes, our coworkers would ask us questions, and sometimes it was for her unit. They'd come and ask me. And in all technicality, it's not something I could address, but oftentimes I'd answer these questions and it grew frustrating because sometimes she didn't get the message, or sometimes she felt like I was overstepping and vice versa. So one of the things we did was we bought walkie-talkies so we could stay in communication with each other at all times. So let's say one of our employees came up and asked me a question that wasn't part of my unit, I gave her a call on the walkie so she could address it herself right away.
That's interesting. And you guys stayed in contact that way throughout.
Yep.
It's a very effective way. There are also a variety of different reasons why people have substance abuse issues. Can you name some of these?
Yes, there's a lot. I guess one thing that people are most familiar with are people are genetically predisposed to this. They're more than likely genetically due to parents or grandparents. That's probably one of the bigger reasons. Another reason is probably the environment people grow up in. If all you see is drugs and alcohol or this kind of unstable environment, you're more likely to fall subject to drugs. One of the more frightening reasons, I think, is just people naturally need medicine, like pain medication, because they're in an accident, and because these substances are so addictive, if they don't regulate properly, they do fall subject to
Okay.
substance abuse. So.
Good. So you, from what I hear, you already know that this job requires working with a lot of people who have gone through many stressful situations, which can also have an effect on us as people that work here. Can you name some ways that you cope with your stress?
Yeah, I like to do a lot of outdoor things, hiking,
Okay.
going to the beach. I think just being outside
Do you
naturally.
live by the beach?
I live relatively close, about 2 miles, 2.5
Okay.
miles, so it's pretty close. So I like to go do those kind of things. My current job is right beneath a mountain, so
Wow.
I get to regularly hike with all the students I work with.
Okay.
But one of my more recent hobbies is I like to build models. I like something about the tedious work that goes into building
Like
these little figures.
Cars or buildings?
A mixture. I do a variety of things, trains, cars,
Interesting.
and something about painting them and getting them just perfect is really relaxing and soothing.
It's good that you do something completely outside of, something
Yeah.
very different to keep your minds off of this.
Creative hobby. Everyone needs one.
Definitely. This job requires developing action plans based on scientific research. On a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you at reading scientific journals and developing action plans from this?
I'd say I'm fairly comfortable. My most recent job was as a behavior therapist, and that included making a lot of action plans
Okay.
and behavior plans for the various students that we worked with. So creating plans and communicating with a group of people is something I'm fairly common with, and with that is reading a lot of scientific journals because you need to keep up to date with what kind of treatments or different kinds of therapies you could provide for your clients.
Right, which is very important. And I don't know if you ever came across, but there are also a lot of journals that show resistance that many clients have. You will need to change the treatment plans, for example. How and when would you know to make this kind of change?
I'd say usually the rule of thumb is if you don't start seeing a change within a week, start planning to make a change and address it with your client. Because I think therapy is very communication oriented, and you need whoever you're working with to be on the same page as you while you're making these changes. So definitely keep up to date with everything, seeing if there's a slow change. But if after a week you don't see a slow progression, definitely plan to start making a change within the next week.
Yeah, and our place really requires a lot of people interaction, and with that, of course, comes you need a lot of in-depth knowledge of laws and government regulations. How comfortable are you with this?
I think I'm fairly comfortable, especially in the substance abuse field. We did a lot of drug and substance abuse training as far as laws is concerned throughout schools. So we read a lot of articles, journals, just essentially memorizing all there is to know, like the very specifics. And it's extremely important because if you're going to advocate for your different clients, then you want to be advocating correctly so you know exactly how to help them.
So you talked about specifics, so you must know that this job requires you to be very organized. What are some ways that you keep yourself organized?
A lot of binders and folders, a lot of dividers within those binders. Really split up everything, very organized. One thing that's actually pretty popular that I like to use is the Google Calendar, and it's amazing because you could easily share links with everyone, all your coworkers.
Technology.
Yep, makes it a world easy.
It does.
So essentially it's essentially an open file. All it takes is a quick look, and you could just manage all your time, all your appointments, and essentially just keep in a binder and really clear-cut notes.
That's great. That was actually my last question
Oh, okay.
for you. We will further contact you if you are accepted to this job, and if not, we'll also contact you as well. So thank you for coming
Thank you so much for the
in.
opportunity.
So hopefully we'll stay in touch.
Absolutely.